Hi student, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Matt Wen. I'm here to help you consolidate what you have learned in school. We have learned the factor method and the quadratic formula in the previous 3 episodes. Today we come across deeper problems. At this, we are going to learn quadratic word problems. I have prepared 8 examples for the demonstration. Quadratic equations can appear in a variety of forms, and students often find it very challenging to compare the presence and set up equations to solve the problems. In this video, I will refer to some practice exercises in the textbook and demonstrate a few common types of word problems. My hope is that you will learn some basic principles from these examples, which will give you the skills and confidence to tackle other types of word problems in the future. Take a look at the first type of problem I have selected. These problems typically involve relationships between numbers. These problems are usually among the first type present in most exercises. This because they are generally easier to solve. Okay, let's see question 1. The sum of squares of 3 consecutive odd numbers is 251. Find the smallest number. Okay, in this question, I think the most critical phrase is 3 consecutive odd numbers. Okay, what it refers to is very simple. Just take a look at an example. For example, 13, 15, 17, they are 3 numbers, they are consecutive, and they are odds. Okay, one more example, 21, 23, and 25. These questions, there are 3 numbers involved. Suppose there are 3 numbers. We can say the smallest one, the middle one, and the largest one. Okay, we can set the smallest one, the smallest number be x, and then we can expect the other 2 numbers in terms of x. The middle one will become x plus 2. The largest one is x plus 4. Why they are x plus 2 and x plus 4? You can refer to the examples. The space between 2 consecutive numbers are 2. So the first one is x, the other 2 x plus 2 and x plus 4. Now we go back to the beginning. The sum of squares. Actually, there are 2 operations, sum and square. Okay, 2 things. We need to bear in mind the sequence. The first step is do the square things, and then we add them up. Okay, so we have 3 numbers. The first step, we get the square of them, x square. And then the second number, x plus 2. Remember, we need to use a bracket. And then x plus 4 square. Okay, we take the square and then get the sum. Okay, so we use the equation of this problem. So we continue. Bear in mind that we have introduced x, but we need to clarify what x refers to. So perhaps we need to write explanations of the definition of x. Suppose that x is the smallest number. Okay, so that other people know that what it refers to. Need to break the 2 brackets and move 251 to the left hand side and simplify the left hand side. Make it as a way ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, and then we use the calculator to find the answer. Okay, I have done the middle steps. The first thing, break the brackets. Okay, x plus 2 square, we use the formula a plus b square. Okay, so a square plus 2 times x times 2, 4x plus 4, and then the same thing, x squared plus 8x plus 16 and move 251 to the left hand side. And then we group the terms. Okay, s square, and s square become 3s square. And then 4s plus hs is 12s. And then 4 plus 16 minus 251 becomes negative 231. Okay, up to these steps, you can use a calculator. But I noticed that this number is the multiple of 3. So I divided all numbers by 3. So we have this equation. And then I use the FMLA. So I have two answers. S is 7 or S is negative 11. Okay, but remember you need to write the step backward and pretend then you are using factor method. Okay, S minus 7 is 0 or S plus 11 is 0, and then add one more step. Okay, so so far we have two answers. One is 7 and the other one is negative 11. If the smallest number is 7, the other two may be 9 and 11. Okay, and then we can use the calculator to check whether the sum or square of these three numbers is 251. Just spend 10 seconds for that. Okay, the sum of them is 251. I mean the square of them. Okay, the other possibility is that the smallest number is negative 11. And then the middle one and the largest one should be plus 2 and then plus 2. Negative 9 and negative 7. Okay, and then negative 11 square plus negative 9 square plus negative 7 square is essentially the same of the first one. Situations, we have two sets of three numbers. The first set is 7, 9, 11, and the second set is negative 11, negative 9, and negative 7. Okay, there are two sets of answer of three numbers. But the question asks us about the smallest number, so we just give the answer of the smallest number. Okay, so the last steps. So the smallest number is 7 or negative 11. Full stop. Okay, finish. Okay, question 2 and question 1 are quite similar, but they are different in quite different aspects. Okay, let's see the question first. The sum of squares of three positive consecutive numbers is 1589. Okay, so this time the three numbers we're going to find are positive and they are consecutive. Okay, this time not consecutive odd numbers, they are only consecutive. So we can think of an examples like 14, 15, and 16. Okay, in this case, if we set the smallest number be s, then the other two should be s plus 1 and s plus 2, because the space between the three numbers are 1. Then s is the biggest number. Then the other two numbers you need to change accordingly. So if the biggest number is s, then the other two should be s minus 1 and s minus 2. Usually I always assume the smallest number be s, so I don't have the equations with so many minus sign in the equations. Okay, once we set the unknowns, we need to write it down the definition of s. Suppose that s is the smallest number. Okay, now the question asks us find the sum of these three numbers. Okay, at the end we have the answer of s, but we need to do one more thing. Is that we need to find out all the three numbers and add up and give the final answer for this question. Okay, if s is the smallest number, the sum of squares, so we take the squares of them, just like the previous one, and add them up. and the result is 1589. Okay, and then we'll break the brackets. Okay, and then we simplify it. 3x squared plus 6x, and then 5 minus 1589, okay, is negative 1584 is 0. This number can be divided by 3, so we divided by 3, I mean the whole equation, to make the equation simpler. Okay, and then we use the calculator. Okay, so there are two answers, 22 and negative 24. So x is 22 or x is negative 24. We have two roots for these equations. They are positive 22 and negative 24. However, the question mentioned that the three numbers are positive numbers. So this one is impossible to be the answers. So we reject this answer. This one is not the right answer. We write rejected. However, there is a short form for rejected. We just use REJ and dot to represent the rejected. Okay, so the smallest number is 22. Then the other two numbers are 23 and 24 respectively. Okay, we give the final answer for these questions. The sum of these three numbers is equal to 22 plus 23, 24. So the final answer is 69. Okay, in question 3, two numbers differ by 4. It means that there are two numbers. The bigger number larger than the smaller number by 4. Okay, the sum of squares of the two numbers is 106. The question asks you to find the two numbers. So I think some of you may be tempted to use two unknowns to represent the problems. Okay, for examples, you assume x is the bigger number minus the smaller number. The difference is 4, and then sum of square is equal to 106. Okay, solve the system of equations, and then you can get the answer. Okay, I think this set of equations are quite right. Actually, you can get the right answer by using the system of equations. However, you haven't learned how to solve this type of equations. Okay, I think you will learn it in the second term of Form 4. So we don't use two unknowns. We restrict to use only one unknown. Okay, so we change the logic of setting the equations. We can consider in this way. Suppose that there are two numbers, the smaller number be x, then the bigger number, you try to write the bigger number in terms of x, because the two numbers differ by 4. So the bigger number should be bigger than the smaller number by 4. So obviously the bigger number is x plus 4. So if you have this mindset, we don't need to use two unknowns. We only use one unknown to represent the two numbers. And then the sum of square of them, just like the previous two questions, the sum of them is 106. Okay, then we write the definition of x. Suppose that x is the smaller number. We expand the brackets and simplify it, and we can divide all the coefficients by 2. So we can use the cos method to find the answer, 5 and negative 9. Two roots for this equation. They are positive 5 and negative 9. Negative 9 should be okay because the question haven't permit the negative answers. Okay, so now we consider if s is the smaller number, 5, the bigger number should be 5 plus 4 is 9. Okay, so the sum of square is 25 plus 81, so the sum of them is 106. Okay, if the smallest number is negative 9, and then the bigger number is negative 9 plus 4, so negative 5. Square of negative 9 and negative 5 is also equal to 106. So these two sets of numbers can be answers of these questions. Question asks us to find the two numbers. We need to carefully, clearly to express the answers like this. The two numbers are 5 and 9. This one is the first set, or negative 9 and negative 5. Okay, let's move on to another type of questions. In these questions, they involve areas and parameters. Question 4. Rectangles perimeter and areas are 44 cm and 112 cm square respectively. Find the length and the width of the rectangle. The question doesn't provide you any diagram, so I draw a rectangle on the right hand side to make it easier to understand the questions. Okay, we are going to find the length and the width. Okay, now there are two unknowns. Later, I will try to use the information to express y in terms of its rectangle has perimeter 44 cm. Okay, 44 cm. Now, how do we use 44 cm? We know that the perimeter is equal to 2 times length plus width is equal to perimeter 44. We can use this relationship to express y in terms of s. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, the first thing, we move 2 to the right hand side. So s plus y is 22. So y is 22 minus s. So y can be expressed in terms of s. Okay, now we take away the y. Y is equal to 22 minus s. Can write down the definition of s. Suppose that the length of the rectangle is s, so the width is equal to 22 minus s cm. Once we have the length and the width, we can use the information of area. Okay, the area 112 is equal to length times the width is equal to the area 112. Okay, and then we simplify these equations to make it ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Okay, multiply the brackets. I think we better move the left hand side to the right hand side to make the coefficients of s be positive. And the roots by the calculator, I have two answers right now, 14 and 8. I don't know whether both of them are the correct answer or either one of them is the answer. So we'll put it back to the rectangles. If the length is 14, the width should be 22 minus 14, that is 8. The product of m is 112, that's okay. If we put 8 back to the length, the width will be equal to 22 minus 8. It will become 14. It is not possible For rectangle, length is always longer than the width. Okay, so 8 and 14 is not the correct answer. So we put the rejected at the back of the 8. So we have only one answer, 14. Okay, the question asks us about the length and the width. So at the end, we write a verbal sentence for the answer. The length is 14 cm and the width is 8 cm. Question 5. In the diagram, triangle ABC is a right angle triangle with angle C being the right angle. Okay, we are given AB, BC, and AC. There are 3 sides. Now find the perimeter of triangle ABC. We don't need to write down the definition of S because S is given to you by the questions. Okay, second, because we have right angle triangles, so I think most of you may think of Pythagoras theorem. Okay, for the Pythagoras theorem, the longest side, the square of the longest side is equal to the sum of the other 2 sides. In this diagram, the right angle is here, so 2x plus 3 is the longest side, so it is alone in the right hand side, and then add the sum of square of the other 2 sides. Okay, and then we are going to expand the brackets and simplify the expression, and then we use the calculator to get the answer. Okay, I explain the brackets. We check once again. X squared plus 2 times x times 6 is 12x plus 36. 4x squared 2 times 6 is 24x plus 36. The right hand side the same, 4x squared times 2 times 2x times 3 is 12x plus 9. Okay, we can cancel the 4x squared, and then 12x we can also cancel. Okay, so the next step is x squared minus 24x 3 is equal to 0. Okay, this one is quite straightforward. So x and 3 and 21. Okay, so we have the factorizations of it. x minus 3, x minus 21 is 0. So x is equal to 3 or x is 21. Okay, once again we have 2 words. Obviously the first one is not the answer. We can reject the first one. Why? When you put 3 back to the diagram, AC is equal to 2x minus 6. Okay, if x is 3, so AC, the length of AC will be 0. It is impossible. Okay, if the length of AC is 0, we cannot draw the diagrams. The question asks you about the perimeter of the triangle, so we write one more steps. The perimeter of triangle ABC is equal to AC is 22 times 21 minus 6 is x plus 6, so 21 plus 6, and then the last one AB is 2x plus 3, so 2 times 21 plus 3. So we have the answer 108. The units of the answer should be cm. Okay, finish. Okay, in question 6, in the diagram ABCD is a trapezium. We are given AB, the upper base, the lower base, and the height, and we are given the area of ABCD is 7 cm square. Find the value of s. I think it is quite straightforward to set up the equation for these questions. Okay, the upper base, the sum of upper base and the lower base, and times the height divided by 2 is equal to 7. Okay, to proceed, the first thing, we move 2 to the right hand side and 14, and we simplify the first brackets. Okay, and then we expand the brackets. Zero, so x squared plus x minus 20. Okay, this one is very easy. 4, 5. Okay, so x minus 4 times x plus 5 is 0, so x is 4, or x is equal to negative 5. Okay, we have two answers, 2 and negative 5. Obviously, negative 5 should not be the answer, because if you put negative 5 to AD, the length here will be negative 7 cm. Okay, so you may wonder 4 is the only answer, but don't be too quick, don't be too automatically. Okay, we need to put back to the diagram and see whether one of the length will be negative. Okay, we put 4 back to these 3 sides. The first one is 2 cm, the second one 2 cm, the third one is 5 cm. That's okay. Okay, so the value of x is equal to 4. It comes to the last type of problems. In these two examples, some formula are involved. Let's see the question first. In question 7, an infection occurs on the farm. An infection means a certain types of illness happens on the farm. The number of chickens in the farm each day after the infection is given by a formula. The most difficult part of these questions is to make sense of this sentence. This sentence I underline. Okay, there is a formula. The formula n is equal to negative x squared minus 2x plus 15. Okay, there are two variables. We need to understand the relationship between them. Okay, n is the number of chickens. Okay, and x is the days after the infection starts. We may imagine the disease may be a killing disease. It may lead to some death of the chickens. To understand the mechanics of the formula, perhaps we can substitute some value into the equations. Okay, the first number I want to plug in the formula is that when x is 0, when x is 0, that means that 0 days after the infection starts. Okay, we put 0 into the formula. So 0 minus 0 plus 15, it gives us the number 15. So it tells us that at the very beginning, the day 0, there are 15 chickens in the farm. Okay, the next value I want to plug in is that 1. After 1 day, how many chickens still alive in the farm? Okay, we put x is 1, negative 1 square minus 2 plus 15. So after 1 day, there are only 12 chickens alive, still alive. So after 1 day, there are only 12 chickens still alive. Perhaps the disease are quite deadly, so 3 chickens die in the first day. Okay, the question asks you that how many days after the infection will all the chickens die? So after several days, we don't know how many days, all the chicken die. So the number of chicken exists becomes to 0. Okay, we don't know how many days. Perhaps we can use, for example, any unknowns, perhaps k, okay, into the formula. We pay x by k, negative k squared minus 2k plus 15 is equal to 0. Okay, at the beginning we need to specify the definition of k. Suppose that after k days all chickens die. Okay, we set an equation and try to solve the equations. Okay, because at the beginning negative k squared minus 2k plus 15, I don't like the negative sign at the beginning, so I time negative 1 to the both sides. So k squared plus 2k minus 15. This one is quite easy to use course method. K, 3 and 5 should be like this. Okay, so k minus 3, k plus 5 is 0. So k is 3, or k is equal to negative 5. Okay, because k refers to the days after the infections, so it cannot be negative. So we reject the 5. So the answer is 3. So we write a sentence to tell the answers. So after 3 days, all the chicken die. The last question, it is given that a formula 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to plus n is equal to 1 over 2 n times n plus 1. Okay, the most important part of these equations lies on understand this formula. Okay, actually this formula is a very famous one. It helps us to find out the sum of the first n numbers. Okay, to make it easier to understand it, perhaps we put a value. For example, we put n be 100. Okay, the left hand side is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and up to 100. Without the formula, we need to use a calculator to invert the number one by one and get the answer. But we can use this formula. This formula, you just put n is 100 to the right hand side. That's equal to 1 over 2 times n is 100. So 100 times 101. So we have the sum. The sum is equal to 5050. So this formula is very useful to help us to add the sum of the first n numbers. Now we understand the use of this formula. Now we continue the questions. Okay, n is a positive integers. If 11 plus 12 plus 13 up to the number n is equal to 410, find the value of n. Okay, the question gives us an equations. Give you the sum of the first, we start from 11, 12 and 13 up to n. The sum of them is equal to 410. Of course, we need to use the first formula, but the formula given is starting from 1, 2, 3, log starting from 11. So perhaps we can add the sum of from 1 to 10 in the both sides. That means that we add 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to plus 10, and then we add this sum to the both sides. Okay, so the right hand side is 410 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to plus 10. Okay, the left hand side is the sum from 1 to 2 to 3 and up to n. But we can use the right hand side is equal to 1 over 2 n times n plus 1. The right hand side is equal to 410 plus we need to find the sum from 1 to 10. 1 to 10, we just simply put n into the equations. The sum from 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to plus 10 is equal to 1 over 2 times 10 times 11. That is 55. Okay, so we replace the brackets by 55, and then we try to solve these equations. We add the sum 465 and put 2 to the right hand side. We have 930, and multiply the brackets and move 930 to the left hand side and solve the equations. We have two roots, 30 and negative 31. Of course, negative 31 is not the answers because n is positive integers, so there's only one answer, is 30.